Hero is the name of the OpenMovie project that focus on 2D animation workflow or bringing 2D into the 3D world of Blender. This is done by using a new version of what in Blender back in the days already was called Grease Pencil. So basically you can paint and draw and animate 2D in a 3D environment. So this is nothing really new that Blender is having right now. Actually, the Grease Pencil, the first Grease Pencil tests go back to the 247 release. 246 was the patch, and then 247. So it was basically a tool for making annotations on your models or your animations, or drawing arcs on top of your animation so you can share feedback, for example. But even back in the days, in this test from 246, which is ancient by today's standards, was already being used for like basic animation tests, like a bouncing ball. So over time, this has evolved into having, Grease Pencil tool has evolved into having a bit more features, like, okay, colors, and then background, then onion skinning, and then layers, and then more and more. And over time, it stopped being a annotation tool to become more of an animation tool. So as of today, 31st of July of 2018, is a very special moment because this annotation tool becomes a full 2D animation workflow that is part of Blender 2.8, a 2D into 3D. And this is something that it's really I think it's gonna change the industry, because there is nothing like this in the market. There is really good 2D animation tools that have a bit of 3D, and there is 3D tools that had a bit of 2D, but none both in the same world. So behold, 2D animation workflow, also known as Grease Pencil. So what's the difference? If you're already familiar with the Grease Pencil tools in the previous versions of Blender, you will see that it's all a bit familiar. But now there is a new object type that is called Grease Pencil. So when you press Shift A to add a new, when you add a new object, such as any kind, you can add a Grease Pencil object. And by default, there is two primitives: a blank, which is an empty Grease Pencil object, and a monkey, which is a nice Suzanne that is in 2D. So it's as a nice example of what you can do with the Grease Pencil objects. And also, if you rotate the view, you'll see that you're actually drawing 2D in a 3D environment. These 2D objects have modes, just like any other kinds of objects in your mesh. So like a mesh has sculpt and vertex paint. Well, the Grease Pencil object has draw, where you can actually draw, edit, where you can edit the strokes, weight paint, and sculpt. So you can even sculpt your strokes, which is just crazy. So draw is where you're gonna make new strokes, where you are going to actually choose one of the tools with these nice icons that have it here, a pen, ink, even you can have the different kinds of strokes, and that's where you create new ones. Then in edit mode is where you are going to actually access and select one of those, one of the strokes. So if I select everything, if I can move it with G, I can even use proportional editing to move my, or even tools like to sphere, mirror, and bend. This is still a work in progress. It's an alpha stage, just like the rest of Blender 2.8, but you can see already how powerful it is, because you can just go and edit your own strokes like it was jelly. The same with the sculpt tools, for example. If you press sculpt mode, you can also have like smoothing or grab or pushing. So you can, let's see the grab, which is similar to grabbing it in the other mode, or smoothing for smoothing, or changing the thickness. So if you want to make some parts more thick, you can just do it with your brush. So, and it also works the same as the rest of Blender. You press Control and then you do the opposite. So that way you can really have control over your strokes. The same with weight paint, that you can use it with modifiers and everything. That it's a real object. That's quite an upgrade. Before, Grease Pencil was attached to the scene, to an object, to the view, but now this is an actual 3D object. You can Shift D to duplicate. You can add modifiers. They also have modifiers, their own modifier types, which are instances for like array. So you can have your own array of monkeys in this case. You also have a build, which is going to, like, it's the same as the mesh actually. It's going to draw your mesh as you draw it, because every stroke has like an index, like a time, like a life. So you're drawing this. And I'm not going to go through all of the modifiers, because that will come in a training series that will come to the Blender channel and the Blender Cloud. There will be only about Grease Pencil and 2D animation, but I just want you to have an idea of the power that this has. So you can have modifiers for color, you can have modifiers for changing your geometry, for mirror. So that way, if you select, you can draw half of your model, and then you have a mirror on the other side. So it works the same as if it was a mesh, and it works in 3D, of course, too. So you will feel very familiar with this concept if you're already familiar with the rest of Blender. But there is a new concept that is only introduced for the Grease Pencil objects, which is the effects for now. Only Grease Pencil for now, but it actually is something that is pretty cool. It's effects that you can add. It's like 2D effects that you add on top of your objects. So to illustrate this, I have a file from Daniel Martinez Lara, which is this one. And you can see here, it's a pretty nice animation. Actually, you can play it back. It's pretty neat. But in the modifier stack, you can enable the rim effect, which is a lighting effect, which is basically just like a mask with a color that you choose, and it's offset. But it has that rim lighting effect, which is pretty nice. And you can just toggle it like any modifiers. They have orders. You can have some flip modifiers, which is going to flip the geometry, so you can have it flip. All of these buttons are animated. You can animate them. So you have so much here, like even pixelate. This is awesome. You can make pixel shapes. So you can make pixel art in 3D, 2D, I don't know. What is this? 2D, 3D, 3.5D? Anyway, so this is all part of the, this is made with 2.8, built on top of 2.8. So it makes use of all of the 2.8 awesome stuff, like a popover. So you can have popovers for like onion skinning of your mesh, for drawing a canvas on top of your mesh, which I'm gonna show here better in this little monkey. So for example, if I enabled the canvas, it's like a 2D grid on top of your mesh that you can subdivide, and you can see when this object is selected. You can have multiple objects, but on the one that is selected, you can see the grid and to see where you are in this object. So you can see exactly where you are. And with that, also with animation. So animation is a key component of the Grease Pencil. You know, Grease Pencil is a 2D animation tool more than anything else. You can also draw. There is this nice example by Daniel Martinez Lara as well, where he's using the keyframes mainly just to draw versions of a model. So for example, he started making like this, then he added a few variations, then another variation, and then it keeps tweaking it. So basically, it's like a process by adding keyframes. Basically, it's just add keyframes, and then every frame will keep its own version of the drawing, which is fantastic. So Grease Pencils are now more than ever just another object within Blender. So they have modifiers, they have effects, which is very specific for it, but they also have a edit, like a mesh data, but Grease Pencil data context, where you can split this 2D object, which is actually in a 3D space, but it also has layers within it. So it has colors. You can enable, disable the colors. In this case, you have lines. This is the example that I'm using for the monkey. So for this video, I'm only using the monkey, so you can also replicate it at home. But you will see that it has layers, just like a 2D animation software. The goal of Grease Pencil is that it feels very familiar for 2D animators that come from other softwares as well, but they have this little hint of Blender way of doing things. So if you make a new layer, you can start drawing immediately, and then paz, which means peace in Spanish. You can have its own layer. This own layer is going to have a tint color if you want one, and it will tint the strokes. Then you can have onion skinning. So if you go to another frame and draw, instead of the pass, you draw another one, then you have these two keyframes. And then the ones in between and after are just basically onion skinning, which you enable it and you should be able to see it as an overlay. So enable the overlay and you can see how was it in the previous frame or how is it in the one after. So this is more or less how you animate. But okay, let's make the typical delete the frames, one little ball, go a few frames more, and then more, and then more. Okay, the crappiest animation ever, but you get the idea. And with this, you can see the before and after of the onion skinning. I should show it actually in a better file, but you get the idea. You can change the custom colors. I'm not gonna go through all of the settings because it's gonna be a spoiler alert for for the actual training that is coming. But yes, Grease Pencil is here, and it's better than ever. It has nice little icons. You will find it all over the place. You can have even, so for example, let's open one of the demo files that I got from Daniel Martinez Lara. It's very nice from Alike. You can find it, Grease Pencil all over the place. So for example, not in the render, but maybe in the scene settings, you can simplify, and as you can simplify meshes, you can also simplify Grease Pencil stuff. So if it's a bit too heavy for your computer, you can disable, for example, lines of fields of your Grease Pencil object, so that way you see it a bit better or faster on your hardware. Because that is one thing that it needs to mention, is that this is all of this works pretty well. It's basically Eevee, so you're gonna need a slightly better graphics card, but the same as Eevee basically. Just that warning, because even though it looks 2D, it still has a lot of processing for the filtering and for everything. So yes, if Eevee goes well for you, then this will go perfect. But if it went really well in 2.7, then you might need an upgrade for this. But that, I mean, yeah, all this filtering, all this it just takes a bit of compositing power. But it's the same as Blender 2.8. It's in alpha state, so it's gonna keep being updated. Actually, this was added a few hours ago. It was implemented merged a few hours ago, but it already has fixes all over the place. All the developers are contributing. Even I was changing some stuff in the interface, fixing tooltips, fixing things here and there. If you have any feedback about it, you can also provide it in the developers forum. And yes, this is huge. This is years of development, of actually being, of not only development, but also like research and work. And this, as I said, this was implemented by Allegorith, by Joshua Long, many years ago, the very first version of July 19, 2008. So it's actually 10 years ago that it was added. So 10 years later, well, actually 7 years or so, because 4 years ago, the project was picked up as the artist, Daniel Martinez Lara, saw the potential in this tool, started making animation tests about it, and then over time he started to find like, okay, we could improve this thing, and then it kept evolving. The developers got excited and started working on it. Then Antonio Vasquez, currently the developer that was next to Daniel Martinez Lara and Matias Mendiola and other storyboard artist. They were working together like every day and fixing things. And I think if you follow the development videos, you are probably familiar with it. But it's just an enormous amount of work done just out of passion for making this and giving the tools to the artists. So yes, expect a dedicated workspace in Blender 2.8 for doing 2D animation only. And remember, this is 2D, this is 3D as well, so you can just mix both. It's just the best of both worlds together. This works with Eevee, so you want to have Eevee, or you want to have, like, I don't know, one of the crazy new madcaps. Yes, you can, of course. It's 3D in 2D, and it's just, okay, I just pressed the close button. Yes, it's in alpha state, it's being worked on. The other thing that I wanted to mention before closing is that the Hero Open Movie project that I mentioned here, this was done with a development version of Grease Pencil. So the files that you can find on the cloud for Hero are not currently, they're not going to open properly with this new version of Grease Pencil because it was done during the development. So hold on there, and there will be files and blend samples that are going to be made specifically for working with the new Grease Pencil. You will find them on Blender Cloud. Some of them will be free access for everyone, and some of them were exclusive for Blender Cloud subscribers because this Open Movie was made thanks to Blender Cloud subscribers. So yes, exciting, super exciting. This is I think it's really gonna be a change in the industry. We showed this at the Annecy during the Annecy Animation Festival just a few months ago, and people were mind blown because we were showing Hero stuff, like showing 2D animation with the stuff from, for example, we were showing a demo. It's just a quick thing, but it's just amazing. We had this demo and then a 2D doodle next to it because this is the same render engine, like the same. You can have a 2D animation here on top of this 3D character. PBR meets 2D meets NPR plus the Google Summer of Code things that are coming for Line PR. It's just crazy. Exciting times ahead. I will see you again after the hype. Please go, if you go test it. It's in Blender, builder.blender.org. Download your version and yeah, you know the drill, Shift A, add a monkey, and just go nuts. I hope you share what you're doing. Just put it online, just share it. Let's make the world know that there is a new 2D/3D/ all these in the market. I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.